Previously on the Cobb and Dash show.
Looking at that recap of last season and that opener video, man, this brought back a lot of tears, a lot of memories. Where this show came from, it came from nothing.
No, just glad to be back, man. Been a bit busy off season outside of the show. I've been able to get a lot of work done outside the show, but I think we've had this date marked on a calendar for the last couple months.
Yeah, I agree, and I had a good conversation with him last night, seeing if he was willing to move one of those top running backs that he has. He's actually very high on Deontay Johnson, and if the season were to end, if the offseason ended right now, he would go with his big three, Chubb, Saquon, and Derrick Henry.
Dang, I don't even know yet. I'm really sweet on Austin Eckler, that's for sure.
Takes, that's you. 3 takes, not me. 2 takes if you lucky. First take, stop me. 4 takes, that's you. 3 takes, not me. 2 takes if you lucky. First take, they got me.
Jesus. Well, hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Cobb and Dash Show, Season 2, Episode 2. Got a good reception on last week. People love the YouTube channel. No subscribers, by the way, so subscribe when you get a chance. Lots of things going on this week, and we're going to get into all that. But first, we're going to go into the executive order aspect of the show. Sorry, guys, just got to go into it. Just talking about certain owners who don't pay on time ever. Kind of got at me this week, and because of that, I'm implementing an executive order that if I do not get your Venmo payment or cash payment by midnight of the day of the draft, we will lock you out until you can't. We won't let you get into your team to even set your lineup after the day of the draft until you pay until the season starts. So quite frankly, going to week 1, what's going to happen is if you haven't paid your dues by week 1, which I'm pointing at one owner, Barry, you need to pay. If your lineup's not set, I will set the best lineup that I think is going to be okay. The commish will set it himself, and hopefully I play that guy who hasn't set his lineup, but I will set your lineup until you pay. And that's the way it's going to go. I'm not going to pick up anybody for you. And so you need to pay your dues by midnight of draft night. It's the only way I can do it. It's the fairest way. What do you guys think?
Yeah. I mean, we've had problems in the past where people don't pay until there's a champion. So I don't think that's how most leagues operate. I know I had an issue in a previous league where a certain owner did not pay and had mandated before the playoffs that you had to pay before then or you wouldn't be allowed to win anything. They ended up winning, and it just got ugly. So I think this is the best way to do it, to make sure that kind of stuff doesn't happen.
And actually, we had spillover into the Turkey Bowl. The guy ends up coming, one of the guy's liaisons ends up coming to the Turkey Bowl in the middle of it and tries to collect money for the guy. It was crazy.
Got ugly.
What do you think, Alex? You've never been a person paying late. You're always on time kind of guy. I always appreciate that about you.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, this is a professional setting. This is an elite league with professional general managers, not owners. We are general managers. We need to hold ourselves to a higher standard in this league. So quite frankly, if you're late in your payment, that's pretty weak, and your contract's in jeopardy of being renewed. So we're taking it seriously this year.
Yeah, and this year too, we have the payouts, the weekly payouts. So if you want your money, that's also another thing I'm going to throw in there right now. I'm just amending this executive order as I go. If you haven't paid by week 1 and you're somehow the high scoring team, you're not getting your money. That money's going back into the pot, and that's it. We'll divvy up the $11 throughout the next rest of the weeks. That's how much it was, right? $11. I forgot. It's in the rule manual because people didn't want to go into. I forgot why we did it that way. I don't know.
It was an extra 15 each divided by 14 weeks. So
okay, so yeah, that $15 will be sprinkled out with the next 13 weeks. So pay, and I hope this one owner gets the memo, and we'll talk to him later on the show if he comes on, and we might make a cameo appearance. But yeah, so I wanted to lay that out there. I think everyone's going to be on board with this because everyone pays on time. I've never had a problem with anybody in the league before. And this owner that I'm pretty much making the rule for, this guy waits till the end of the season because he wants to wait to see who the champion is, and then he'll pay whoever the champion is. I'm like, dude, no, that's not happening anymore. I don't like that rule. It's just it's low. And as you said, Alex, we're professionals, man. Like, this is real. As much as it's fantasy, it's reality. That's not monopoly money we're winning. But we got a good show for you guys today. We have a guest coming on here in a little bit. He was probably one of our most frequent guests on the show last year. Pergobeastly, probably one of the most disrespected guests too. I mean, everyone every year after year, especially last year, people were shitting on this guy for trading all his picks. And guess what? The guy ends up going to semifinals weekend. Gave a little run to the. He played you right at Cobb.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He almost took you out. He didn't come close to it, but he put up good points, and that's one thing about him that everyone's like, wow. And I always say he's always waiting at 4 a.m. when the waiver wire is done on Wednesdays. He comes in, and he picks up guys who people drop. Gotta love it. So he's gonna talk to us about that today. Also coming up, we are talking about the slow start that we're seeing in this league this year. And I've heard from many owners this week because I'm trying to figure out why we have a slow start. And I'm hearing from many owners as to why people aren't trading. Some people are being very just being kind of frugal with their draft picks this year, or just trying to fuck over other owners. So that's why trades aren't being done. And then we got the fall of David Roden, who once was a first ballot Hall of Famer, and making trade this week that a lot of people are very questioned on. They don't know what he's doing. Everybody looks at his roster last year, didn't know where he was going with that roster. And the bonehead trade he made this week, everyone's like, wow, this guy want to be out of the league. I mean, no one knows. And then last topic of the night is who needs to make a move, looking at the teams and the rosters as constructed. Who is the need to make a move? So each of us will pick one team out and say which team needs to make a move. So yeah, it's an action-packed show here. Any words on Pergobeastly before he gets on here to just kind of give people a little background about who Pergobeastly is?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, definitely one of the most disrespected owners in the league, and he definitely made us eat our words multiple times last season. And I think we've all changed our attitude towards his team, especially his three-headed monster of keepers. But I also, I hope we get some answers as to who he's keeping, because I've heard some rumblings that those three keepers that we thought were locks aren't locks anymore.
What? That's a tease. If I've ever heard one. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Paul Pergobeastly, dating back to the entrance into this league about 4 or 5 years ago now. We took a look at some of his rosters last season when he came on as a guest. He had some pretty bad rosters, but he finished around that 6-7 mark pretty much every single year. He's a very qualified owner, great resume. And I mean, he shows that he can take trash teams and slide him into the playoffs. And so, I'm scared to play him this year, quite frankly. He's got a loaded roster now with extra draft picks going in. He's got the triple-headed monster potentially, and we'll find out more about that. But, I think Paul's a definite playoff team for this season.
Yeah, he definitely is. And also, when Ruben made that spreadsheet a couple weeks ago, when it I think the one where I was like, well, holy shit, was he's only been in this league for 4 years, I believe now. And it was moves per year. If you look at his moves per year, it's 4 years, small sample size. But I think he's like top 3 all time if you just put moves per year off his 4-year sample size. I always say if you make moves in this league, you're gonna win. You may not win a championship, but you're gonna be up there. You're gonna be in the playoffs. That's what it's about. Stu's got a championship under his belt, but everyone forgets about that champion that he has. But if you look at his years, he's up there with moves in totality. So I mean, you make moves, you're gonna go places. I think a good example of that is Cobb's team 2 years ago. Guy made a lot of moves. Guy was able to trade and move a lot of pieces because he had a lot of good pieces on his team that were pickups and whatnot. Not so much last year. Last year was all because of the moves you made, because you made trades to get those early round picks. So very valuable asset to have. I think it's kind of a slimy thing when you have guys waiting on waiver wires in the morning. I mean, Paul, he likes it. He likes waking up at 5. He likes setting his alarm clock to see who's been dropped. And it's dedication, man. I'm not doing that. I like my sleep. I'm not waking up at 5 to do it. But also, Paul's going to be coming on here in a minute. But I do want to say this. I know with our platform, we can throw out trades. We can do all types of things. I'm looking to get back in the second round. and I'm looking to trade my next year's second round pick and maybe a couple other picks, maybe a little more package to get a second round pick this year. So my line's open. I'm willing to trade Jalen Hurts and a second round pick for someone's second round pick this year. So pretty good trade. You got 20th round tender and Jalen Hurts, could be your quarterback for the future, and you get a second round pick for the future. I think you're pretty set if you do that trade. That's what I got. Alex, you actually were talking to me about a trade that you might be offering somebody. Why don't you tell us about this a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go into too much details here, but we talked a lot about stacks in this league, and there's a stack I have my eye on. And so, I'm not going to name drop anything right now, but I'm in discussions. It's kind of we're on a stalemate right now, and we'll see in this next coming week, and hopefully there's some movement.
All right, I can't wait to see what you got. So that leads us into our guest here. We got Paul Pergobeastly coming on. We've been talking about this guy for the last 10 minutes now, and he's here. And yeah, like I said, one of the most disrespected owners, but the guy grinds it out. I mean, the guy's a New Yorker, man. The guy's going to grind it out, and he's an Italian. And if we know anything about Italians and New Yorkers, they're grinded out types. And this guy, Paul Pergobeastly, is coming on here right now. Paul, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you, Dash?
We're doing
I'll
good,
take
man.
Cobb.
It's we were saying you're probably one of our most frequent guests on the Cobb and Dash show last year. I think you had 4 or 5 appearances. Like you topped all our guests last year, so it was only right that you'd be our first official guest of the new league year.
It's an honor. I've got to figure out how to put this background on for a second here.
All right, we'll give you some time to do that. But Paul, we were talking about last year how every beginning of the season we were all kind of everyone was kind of suspect of what you were going to do with the three-headed monster that you have. You trade so many picks to get these guys, and you came out firing last year. You got to the semifinals, your furthest you've ever been in this league. So kind of talk to us about your strategy going into this year now that you have the vast amount of your picks. And also, Cobb was telling me there's a chance that you might not be keeping there it is. You might not be keeping the three-headed monster. Can you talk to us about let's pick your brain a little bit about what you're doing with the three-headed monster.
So as of right now, I'm keeping the three-headed monster. I'm open to moving all of them, or not all of them at once, but any of them if I get a good enough offer. But I'm not just going to move them to make a trade. And I haven't really gotten any offers that have gotten me too interested yet. Gotten close maybe with 1 or 2 owners, but nothing that I think I've used the language. I need a no-brainer for me to pull the trigger on a trade of any one of those 3 and haven't quite gotten there. And as for last year, trading away the picks hurt. And the real place that hurt was I had no depth. So when I lost Saquon, it was like, well, shit. And at one point I was down to only Henry because Chubb got hurt for like 6 weeks too. So had to really, I'm always pretty aggressive on the waiver wire, but I had to really step it up last year. And I think where it really hurt me the most in retrospect was when I went into the draft and I didn't have picks in rounds, whatever it was, 1 through 5. I felt I couldn't take high upside guys in that 6 to 8 round or 6 to 8th round range. I felt like I needed to take guys that I knew would have a floor. And so one guy that just I'll never get over missing out on is Justin Jefferson. I had him circled for months that I wanted him. If he was there at that 6th round pick, I was going to take him. But then Devontae Parker was there. And as somebody who had no receivers at that point in the draft, I thought to myself, man, I can't pass up a 1,200-yard receiver for a rookie. Because I know everybody wasn't expecting me to try to compete, but that's just not how I operate. So I wanted to build a team that could compete. And then same thing later when I picked Matt Ryan. In retrospect, like I did in Taves's league, our other league I'm in with you, Dash, I would have taken Josh Allen there and taken a bigger swing. But I went with the guy that I felt would be consistent and give me a floor. And it didn't work out, but it sort of worked out. So can't complain too much. But yeah, I'm excited about this year because I feel like I could take some more swings in the draft now that I have more picks. And we'll see how it goes.
And Paul, do you have any tips for Dash over there, who is in a similar situation of not having a pick until the 5th round, right, Dash?
You got the fourth one from
Oh yeah, that's right.
this trade with Stu, right?
Yep.
Yeah, my tip would be just so you're keeping, I would assume, Mahomes, Hill, and do you know who the third is yet? Or
It's gonna be Kelsey, the triple stack.
oh, okay. All right, so you're pretty well covered there. Don't just take a running back because you need one. What I'd say about our league, which is something I really like, is we have the 3 flex spots. So you only need one to start. If there's a no-brainer wide receiver there that's far and away better than any running back that's on the board, don't feel like you have to take a running back just because you don't have one yet. Because you can find somebody on the waiver wire at some point in the year. I just say just go best available at that point, and you've got a pretty good solid base there with the stack. So
Yeah, that's the one thing. It's just as I've been thinking about the last few days, it's like, do I try? Because the only asset I can really trade this year would be trading my 2nd round pick next year to and kind of package to get a 2nd round pick this year. I think there's one guy who has multiple 2nd round picks, one being my 2nd round pick, that I can try to maybe work with to get a 2nd round pick back. But he hasn't responded to my trade on that, so it doesn't seem like it's going to happen.
yeah, at a certain point though, when you're doing stuff like that, mortgaging next year's picks, it ends up like you're in a canoe and you take the cork out of one hole and put it in another hole.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to bite the bullet at some point, and then you don't have to deal with it anymore. Like last year, I gave up all my picks to get those 3 guys, and hopefully it'll pay off. And I don't have to give up any picks to get anybody this year. It's a good position to be in, to know that I don't have to make any trades this offseason. I can just, something comes along, it's a no-brainer, great. But otherwise, I'm pretty comfortable going in with Henry, Chubb, and Saquon. So
now there's a question I did want to ask you. So reports came out this week about Saquon maybe not being ready for the start of training camp. And I said they also say it could lead into the beginning part of this regular season. As a Giants fan, and obviously as a Saquon owner, what are your thoughts on that? And would you be more inclined of shipping out Saquon if you got the right offer?
Keywords there, right offer, but also number one thing with that is just I hope Saquon, they don't rush him back, because I would rather have him for week 17 than week 1. So if he misses a couple weeks while he's in the beginning of the season, or they have him on kind of a snap count at the beginning, I'm fine with that, as long as we get prime Saquon at some point in the season and don't rush him back. And yeah, I'm pretty late in the first round. So I don't, if I was picking 3rd, I'd be more inclined to move Saquon, I think, but I think I'm 9th or 10th. So if I get the right offer, maybe, but it would take something pretty sweet to make that deal. So we'll see.
And Alex, I know you're trying to get Saquon in another league. Have you talked to Paul about Saquon? I know you're a big Saquon guy.
Yeah, I mean, I reached out to Paul earlier this offseason about actually all 3 of his guys, just seeing where he valued everyone. And, I kind of checked in with most of the owners this year, especially ones that had one of those top 6 running backs, because, that's something that I do value and I am interested in. And so, we were in talks, and, he rightfully so, he values those guys very high. And, I wasn't sure if I could pay that price to get one of those guys, at least not at that time. I might check in with Paul again, in the next coming weeks, and, see where he stands, see if we can get closer to a deal. But yeah, I mean, I think Paul's in a really good situation going into the season. We saw what he was able to do with really only one of those guys healthy for the year, and not picking till the 6th or 7th round, like we said. Now he's gonna have all 3 healthy, and he's gonna have a pick, 3rd round going on, the rest of the draft. And so I think he's gonna be in a really good situation.
And you also have, quite frankly, you could even forget about the 3 guys you have. There's just some guys in your roster you could potentially trade to teams in this league who are hurting. You have Deontay Johnson. That's a prize piece that somebody could definitely role with him next year.
Yeah, I've sent out some feelers to see if haven't gotten many bites on Deontay yet, but we'll see. Also sneaky one, AB 20th round.
Ooh,
He was right there with Evans and Godwin
Yep.
targets, and Tom loves him. So if anybody's looking for a cheap wide receiver keeper, my phone number, so text me.
and we're talking about a guy who was picked up mid-season, who really there was no training camp. I mean, he had none of the stuff last year. He just has a really good rapport with Brady. Give him a full offseason and a training camp with Brady in the Bucs system. I think AB could be a real. He could be a sleeper. He's the type of guy I'm targeting in the 4th and 5th rounds when I get back into the draft.
Yeah.
And the guy won me a chance a couple years ago, so don't be surprised he comes back on the team.
He was starting for me down the stretch, and I actually stupidly drafted him in like the 18th round, thinking I could afford to hold him for like the first 8 weeks and wait to see where he signed. And then I needed to start someone 1 week, so I had to drop him and pick somebody up. And then you had him for like 2 weeks. I think.
Did?
Yeah, I think you had him for like 2 weeks. Then you dropped him again like the week before he got signed, and I picked him up again. I was like, oh, thank you, Dash.
Yeah, well, him and Josh were the two guys who get picked up and tossed around like a rag dolls all throughout the season because their histories they have, and people are like, oh, I'm going to stash them. Nah, then they end up dropping them. So, but you kind of mentioned something. You threw on some feelers about Deontay Johnson. No one's really bitten so far, and that's our first topic tonight is slow start. What gives? So last year at this time there was about 100 trades. Hotch alone had like 50 trades by himself by this point last year. Right now we're at 5. What's the number, Cobb, Alex?
I think
Around
it's
there.
5.
Yeah.
5. All right, so that's the first question here. Cobb, we'll start with you. What do you think the reason is as to why we have a slow start and why people are just being pretty cheap with trading their picks or not trading?
Yeah. I do think last year was kind of an anomaly when it comes to trades. Obviously, it was by far the most trades we've ever had. Most trades I've seen in any league by far. And I think a lot of that had to do because of the lockdown, people not being able to do much other than look forward to things like fantasy in the basement league and the draft. And, we had Hotch making a trade with almost every single owner in this league, sometimes multiple trades with every single owner. So, he's off to a decent start this season, but, I think everyone's out and about. I was talking to a few owners about some potential trades, and some of them were just like, I'll get back to you when I start looking into fantasy. And by this time last year, I mean, we were deep into it. So I think that's the biggest thing is people are out and about, busy, not really thinking about fantasy yet. But those are the people that are probably going to be lacking behind.
Alex, what are your thoughts? Because you've been one of the ones who's been shopping like a shopaholic since January. You've been sending out feelers there for 8 months now. Kind of talk to me what you're hearing from guys who aren't trying to trade, and just in general. What are your thoughts on why do you think people aren't trading?
Yeah, I mean, I personally think it's kind of this ripple down effect where you'll text someone interested in a trade, and a lot of times, especially once you get crafty as an owner, you try to find these 3-way deals where it's like, hey, if I was able to get this guy from this person, would you be interested in him for who you have and whatnot, and there's all this stipulation that goes into the modern day offseason trading within this league. And what seems to happen is one person will say, let me wait till we get closer to the season. And it's not necessarily because they're unprepared or they haven't looked at anything. It's because, they're unsure themselves of, potential moves that could be happening. There's a lot of potential uncertainties for the season. Green Bay, for example, there's a couple other scenarios like that where people, they have someone that they just want to wait and see what's going to happen. And then, it's the ripple down effect. So then they talk to that next owner. They're like, you know what, let me wait until I hear back from so-and-so because I need to make sure that piece is good for this trade. And then it's the same situation. Now they're waiting to hear back and, they get a text from someone else. And it's just the same situation. Like, you know what, I think this could be a good deal, but I have a, potential offer from Paul or from Adam, about, this same player. Let me just wait and see what the best, I want to make sure I get bang for my buck. I want to make sure I get the best available offer on the table. And so it just seems like people are hesitant and, a little bit timid. And so, I do obviously think there's no way we're going to get up to that kind of craziness that it was last season, but I do suspect maybe late July, early August, that there'll be kind of a week or two where things pick up and you see a couple of trades happen in a week, kind of back to back. And I think it, like I said, it's a ripple down effect. So once one or two, big trades happen, I think that might open up the gates for some others. But I do see this as a pretty quiet offseason overall.
Paul, you obviously had the big splash last offseason, and right now yours more so like kind of fielding offers on guys you have because you're pretty set on the 3 you have. What have you noticed, and what are you kind of taking into account in this offseason as to why you're not really making any deals?
Yeah, I think last year I got Henry and Chubb both from Hotch after he had acquired them from somebody else and then changed his mind like 2 weeks later. So there is still 5 or 6 weeks till the draft, and there's a lot of time for Hotch to change his mind. So I think there will be some more big moves soon. But like Cobb said, there are some owners that I've reached out to and have said basically, I haven't looked into it yet. I'm not ready to really start talking trades, and that's all right. That's this league is different than a lot of other leagues, but that's what makes it special. So hopefully those guys get ready quick and we can start moving on some negotiations. But yeah, I think it'll heat up soon, like Alex said. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, and I will say we thought we kind of had like a little thing on the show last week. We were like, you know what? I think once we get the first Cobb and Dash show episode out, I think we're going to see a lot of trades. I think we only had one trade that happened after the episode was posted, and it was a big one. We'll get into that in a second. But I do want to say this. So I was talking to Hotch. I was trying to get a feel for why there's not really being trades. Like, there's not really trades happening, and he tells me this. He goes, people are just offering outrageous deals. He goes, I don't know if it's to me because I like to trade a lot, and so I'm just getting a lot of outrageous deals. But I'm not gonna name drop the people. But Hotch texts me on Wednesday. He goes, so and so wants a 2 and 3 and Dobbins for a player on his team in a 5th round. That player does not. The player I'm talking about is not anyone that's like that deserves a 2 or 3 in Dobbins. And he's telling me that he told me that's crazy. He goes, and then another person in the league who I would say a top 10 receiver. He wants a first, a good keeper, and maybe more for this one particular player. This player's probably like a top 12 receiver in the league. Obviously has major upside. He is as an elite quarterback. I don't want to give any names. I don't want to ruin anybody's. I don't want to ruin anyone's parade. But this is what Hotch is telling me. This. And Hotch loves trading, and he's telling me this about certain owners who want a lot. They're only going to do a trade essentially if they're going to fuck somebody over, which that's what I'm seeing now this year so far, which is kind of upsetting, He just says, yeah, everyone's being really stingy this year with picks. He also said that people just don't care. Quote, because he offered someone CD Lamb and 2 4th-round picks. Yeah, he offered Cobb 2 fourths, Galladay for Justin Jefferson. Obviously, since then, he's traded CD and Galladay, so obviously this trade's null. But he said that again, that's not an amazing trade, but I feel like people have just completely written off 4th-round picks, which totally true. I think people think 4th-round picks are just trash now. I love my 4th-round picks. All right, I traded Keenan Allen for a 4th-rounder. I would have traded him for a 3rd, obviously, but 4th. When Stu said 4th, I was like, okay, it's fine. I'll take it. I don't have a 4th right now, so I'll do it. But yeah, it just speaks to, I think people just want the high picks or they want to fuck somebody over in a trade. Otherwise, they're not going to do a trade up until about a week before the draft. That's when you see more trades that are more reasonable type trades that happened like a week before. But yet, a lot of us are eager bastards, and we want to trade right now. We got a guy on our mind, we want him, or we want to get some guy off our team. That's how most of us are, I think. But yeah, it's interesting that the 4th-round picks aren't being valued. I don't know what. Do you guys have any reason why that could be?
No, I mean, I can go through who was taken in the 4th last year. There were some decent names, but no one that, there are people that you could see being drafted in the 5th and the 6th round as well. It's usually when people start to go out and get the guys that they've circled. There's guys like, Cortland Sutton, Kenyon Drake, Deshaun Watson, Mark Ingram, Tyler Boyd, Hayden Hurst, Jarvis Landry, David Montgomery, Evan Ingram. So like solid guys, but no one that I'm about to brag about having on my team really. They might be useful pieces, but I don't know. It's just I think everyone has their eyes on the higher rounds. Everyone values their keepers. Obviously I value my 3 keepers pretty highly, as many owners know. And it's like Paul said earlier, if it's not a deal that is like a no-brainer, it's probably not going to happen for me, at least.
You guys have any thoughts on this whole 4th round business?
I mean, I just think that when people are trying to make trades, I think going into this year, there's a big emphasis on these big name types of players. And so, when you're talking shop with an owner, they want a second or they want something like that. And so, they think that their players overvalued and that they're not really interested in a 4th for those players. And I think that's something that you saw in last offseason that you're not seeing now is flipping happen. Hodge was the master of it. I think I flipped a couple of players. I know Roden did too. And Dash might have done 1 or 2 as well, where you trade for, he was part of a deal with Connors and all that with me last year, but you trade for a player that you don't want, that that you can, you have a deal cooking with someone else and that you can, get a higher pick. And, if you're just doing a quick flip, a 4th round pick is phenomenal, but people are just looking to build pieces on their team. And they want high draft picks, but they want high, valued players. And so because this, this mid-tier, flipping isn't happening, they want boom or bust. They want it all. They want a 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, or they want a top keeper. And so I think because you're not seeing that type of flipping happening right now, 4th round picks is something that people are overlooking.
Kind of building off that, I think one reason there might not have been as many trades so far is that we removed the pick swapping rule. Because that, I know for me, at least in the Chubb deal last year, helped facilitate it, because I think I added my 9th and Hodge added his 9th. And he basically got to pick at 9-2, and then I got to keep Chubb at 9-10 or something. So that extra bit of value that you can add with the pick swapping, that doesn't really hurt you if you're going to didn't hurt you if you're going to keep the guy in that round. It's no longer a tool you can use to help get a deal done. So that might be one factor.
Yeah, I think that was one of the major things we passed last year was the pick swapping. I'm really happy we did it. I know it was kind of a mixed feedback. I know Roden, who's been a big fan of the pick swapping, he was one of the biggest people who wanted that rule to get that gone. So, when I see guys who know they're kind of taking advantage of this loophole and then they voted against it, that's how you know that, it was good, that it needs to be gone. But we are seeing some impacts of it. People aren't trading as much anymore because of that element. Okay, so we're going to get into the only trade that happened this week, which is, I brought up Roden, and now we're going to talk about Roden right here. A lot of people are saying that I think Roden may have plateaued after his last championship, and that maybe a reason you see in this decline in these trades. Maybe his roster last year sucked. This trade this week made no sense. People think that the loss to Cobb really did him in the championship 2 years ago. And we're going to talk about the trade that he did this week. If you haven't seen it, it's a doozy. So Hodge sends his 4th round pick, CeeDee Lamb, Josh Allen, to Roden for.
He sent Calvin Ridley, not CD.
What's that?
He sent Calvin Ridley, he sent Calvin Ridley and Josh Allen.
Oh, yeah. So Hodge trades his 4th CeeDee Lamb and Galladay to Roden for Calvin Ridley and Josh Allen. So Roden got rid of Josh Allen and Calvin Ridley for a 4th, CeeDee Lamb and Kenny Galladay. Here's the kicker. He's not even keeping Kenny Galladay. He wrote that he's not going to keep in Kenny Galladay, which blows my mind. Hey, the trade's awful, whether he keeps Kenny Galladay or not. What is Roden doing? That's my question. Cobb, what is Roden doing, and is Roden done? Has he hit the cliff? Because I think he's fallen off a cliff. That's what I think.
Yeah, I'm having deja vu to beginning of last season when we were saying he fell off a cliff. Still made the playoffs. I'm not one to write someone off too early, even though I guess I did it last year with Paul's team a few times. But I looking at this trade, I think you guys, it has merit. He gave up the best 2 players, Calvin Ridley, no Julio there now. So he's going to eat. I mean, they have their tight ends there, then he gives up Josh Allen, which was one of the I know there was a Josh Allen sweepstakes going on we had a deal in place that I thought was pretty good. Didn't go through, and he went with this one. He must be I'm a big CeeDee Lamb fan. Would I have made this trade? Definitely not. I think Josh Allen is almost a guaranteed top 4 quarterback this year, especially with his running. I think he has a solid floor. We saw what he did with Diggs last year, and that was their first year. I mean, he clicked it, and he must not have as much faith in Josh Allen as some other people do. But I'm going to take this as a loss for Roden here.
Will Roden make the playoffs this year? I know we're obviously way off to see what his roster looks like, but making bonehead moves like this, he didn't do anything to help his roster last year. Will Roden make the playoffs?
I'm going to say he just misses it. He just misses the playoffs.
Alex, what are your thoughts on this trade, and has Roden hit a cliff?
Well, I mean, firstly, my thoughts on this trade, I think that Hotch absolutely destroyed him on it. I think Roden got left behind in this trade. And, just taking a look at it, it happens. We've seen it last year with ZT, and, we can historically go back to a couple of years, and, people, if you trade a lot, which Roden, I would say he's in the top half of the league in terms of making moves. It's going to happen. You're going to get burned once or twice. And so I don't think it's the end of the world, but he definitely in my opinion, he got shafted on this deal. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, unless he's trying to flip Kenny Golladay. But like we said, in this market, in this league, I don't know if that's going to happen. So I think that's just lost value that he's going to have to eat and send back to the draft, which I'm not a fan of. Now, has he hit a cliff? My answer is yes and no. And here's the thing, he was, people were saying he was on the Mount Rushmore. He was on the tip top of the league. He was in his peak. He was in his prime. Now here's what I have to say. Is he still a competitive owner? Is he still a good owner in this league? Yes. Is he elite? Is he in that Mahomes level? Is he in his prime right now? I'm saying he's trending down. That's my take. I still think, based on what his value is as an owner, I don't even care about his team this year. I think he's still in that, that wild card spot. I think he's still in that 5 through 8 range where, some years he might make it, some years he won't. But in terms of competing for a bye week, that was his prime. If you're talking about, a basketball player or football player, he's trending down. He's aged, 36 or so, out of his prime. He's still got a couple, it's like Larry Fitzgerald the last couple of years. He's got a couple good years left, but, he's not the player he once used to be. So that's my take on, this trade on Roden and the whole Roden situation.
Paul, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I've been in this league 4 years, and I think he's made the playoffs in all 4 of those years, so I'm not going to bet against him.
Fair.
I do agree. I think that Hotch got the better end of this deal. That might be a little sour grapes because I was also in on the Allen sweepstakes. We had some talks about him, but
Interesting. What were you willing to give away for Josh Allen?
So there was discussion of Henry for Allen and his one.
Wow. That would have been a freaking blockbuster.
But I think we kind of left it as both of us saying that's very intriguing, but we weren't ready to pull. Neither of us was ready to pull the trigger yet. And then Hotch, as he likes to do, he swoops in and makes a deal for him. But the one piece of that deal that I think was the part where Roden missed was he should have gotten a higher pick. I just looked, it was 411. So it's basically it's the second to last pick of the 4th round. And like Cobb said, anytime I look at the picks, when someone offers me a pick, I look last year's draft, year before, who went in that round, because that gives you a good sense of what's going to be there. And at 411, he's going to look back at this deal and he's going to say, okay, I got CD, Golladay, who I don't end up keeping, and whoever I got at 411 for Allen and who was the second person? I forget.
Calvin Ridley.
And Ridley. I think he's going to look back and say, I lost this deal. But he still has some pretty solid keepers. I mean, I liked the move for JT earlier in the offseason. I was hunting for Taylor at one point this offseason. So we'll see. I think he's a strong owner. He's proven that in the past, and he'll still put together a solid team.
And I think an underlying story here is Hotch being this eager beaver that he is. He swooped in on that trade with you, Cobb was telling me a story earlier about Hotch. How you had a meeting. You said, "Hey, man, I'll talk to you later." Can you kind of tell us that story? It's a good one.
Yeah, this is actually when this trade happened. Hotch and I were talking about a different player. He had sent me an offer. I said that was interesting, but I'm about to get into a meeting, so I couldn't really analyze it. I told him I'll get it right back to him because I only had to talk the beginning part of it. And he texted me. He said, okay, but Roden might swoop in. Not even 10 minutes later, I text him. I say, okay, let's talk. And then he said, Roden swept in. And then I got the notification from Facebook, and I can't blame him. I mean, he got a great deal, way better than what we were about to do. But yeah, that's just how Hodge operates, man. You gotta strike while the iron's hot. If he's texting you, he's texting at least 3 other people. Yep. So if you see a deal you like, you have to take it, or it's gonna be gone like that.
And I think I'm not dogging Roden for doing trades. I love the fact that people are trying to facilitate and do whatever they have to do to up their value of their team. Obviously, we're talking, the big subject was not trades, but Roden's done 2 of the 5 trades already this offseason. I think maybe even more. But the guys working to succeed, but the trade he did was so bad. I thought last year he had a window for the last 5 years, I would say. Obviously he's been at 2 championships. He won 1. And I just think he had a window, and I think it's kind of, what's that?
Hasn't he been to 3? 2 against you, 1 against me.
Yeah, well, he beat me. Yeah, 3. Yeah, he lost to me, lost to you. So yeah, it's been the championship 3 times in the last 3 of the last 4 years, which is amazing. But I think he had a window last year. He could have done it again. His team just wasn't strong enough. We were saying it all season. He needs to make a move. He did make the move to get Josh Allen in the first place, but that wasn't enough. So yeah, I'm rooting for Roden. I think his trending's right. This trade is like it's trending downwards right now. Obviously, he can always do another trade to get back up, or he can nail it with all his draft picks, which he's definitely capable of doing. Obviously, 3 out of the last 4 years has been the championship. So,
and we might all look stupid if he's right about CeeDee Lamb and he's got him in the 6th round tender, I think it is, and he turns into the next Julio or whatever, and he's got him. So, the one thing about these trades, when you trade, you only have to pay the price once, and then you got the guy. So if you can suck it up and pay that price for 1 year, then if you get a keeper for 5 years, it's worth it. So.
Yeah, and I think, and I'll say, there's something to that. Look at CeeDee Lamb's numbers with Dak Prescott last year. He was doing pretty good, and he didn't have a training camp, didn't have a rookie mini camp, and it was the whole virtual training camp. So, yeah, I'm 100% with you. CeeDee Lamb could definitely be a badass this year, and I can be dumb. We can all say we're stupid for trashing Roden the way we are right now, but yeah. So CeeDee Lamb could be all right. Okay, so our final topic today, it's looking like, actually, before we get to, we're going to take a quick commercial break. This week's episode, we're sponsored by Nathan's Hot Dogs of Delaware. Our Marcus Berry this weekend actually participated in the Nathan's Delaware Hot Dog Challenge. Take a quick look at the video from July the 4th, Nathan's Delaware Hot Dog Challenge. So our final segment tonight, before we head out, is we're talking about moves. It's the off season. We're talking about teams bettering themselves. But the number one last topic today is who needs to make a move this off season. And a lot of teams haven't made a move, so I think this is very relevant. And we talk about how Roden didn't really make any moves during the season last year, but there's a lot of teams who need to make a move. Obviously, some. But the one I'm choosing, I'll start off. The team I'm choosing is team that got to the semifinals last year, the GB Stackers, Marcus Berry Fitness Stackers. He had the GB Stackers, and right now we don't know what's going to happen with the Stackers. Aaron Rodgers could go to Denver. Devontae Adams could have Jordan Love as his quarterback, and that could be something that fucks the GB stackers up. And he's trying right now. He doesn't know whether to trade Devontae Adams before Aaron Rodgers leaves or try to test Devontae Adams and see what he does with Jordan Love. He's kind of at a standstill right now. So he's a guy who really does need to make a trade like soon. And I think he needs to put himself in a situation for his third keeper, because right now he said if the season started today, he would go Rodgers, he would go Devontae Adams, and he would go Austin Eckler. That would be his three. I'm not a big fan of keeping quarterbacks, especially quarterbacks in the top 5. And I believe Rodgers was a 3rd or 4th round tender. That could be 5. Okay, that's not bad, but that's high for a quarterback. I got Mahomes in the 8th round. It's amazing. But does Jalen Hurts is a 20th round tender? You can make a trade for a quarterback like that, like a Jalen Hurts type, 20th round tender. But like, I just don't like that Aaron Rodgers pick to keep. He can draft him all he wants to, but keeping him, you need to make a move for somebody else. I think you shouldn't go into the season keeping the stack. I love stacks. I'm all for the stack, but I just think with this whole situation right now, it's one thing to already have one kind of investment into the Packers, but to bank your whole fantasy season on that, like the main guy who might hold back the Packers, it's kind of risky to me. If I'm him, I'm making a trade for at least another guy that you're not really trading a lot to get, just so you have a backup plan if Rodgers does do it, and then people know you're desperate to get another player, so people will up their prices up for Barry. So if I'm him, I'm making a trade now before the whole Packers thing gets out of hand, more so than it is. So Barry's my team that needs to make a deal.
Yeah, just a quick note on, I think that would have been my first pick as well. I updated that the Google Doc that has the draft board and the trades. It now has everyone's projected keepers and also potential keep. So if they already have 3 keepers and they might have some extra people on the roster that I could also see keeping, Barry's the only one who didn't have anyone extra. He has his 3: Austin Eckler, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams. So that's, if I'm Barry, I'm using this Google Doc. It has Ruben's rosters that he broke down with all the tenders. And I even sub that down just to show the best value players on each team. But yeah, Barry's got some work to do. But my pick is a little different. Not that they're not in that bad of a situation. I'm going to go with Adam. I think Adam has a lot of value sitting on his bench, or guys that I don't think he's going to keep. And I think these are guys that people would be like, people like Barry or someone that needs the third keeper would trade for. He has Miles Sanders in the 4th. He has Justin Herbert in the 20th, Joe Burrow in the 20th, Zeke in the 1st, which I don't know if he's going to keep him. He does have a high 1st. AJ Brown, AJ Brown the 20th, Joe Mixon the 2nd. So there's value there. I think Adam could definitely be a little more active and be trading these guys, trying to accumulate picks. It kind of looks like what I had, kind of not as good last year, where I was able to get a lot of picks, people that were keeper hungry. And I haven't heard any move. I've heard one move by potential move by Adam this season, but I think he needs to be a little more active.
He was late on the Keenan Allen sweepstakes. I tried to get him to stack with Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen earlier on in the offseason. He didn't want any part of it. Well, he did, but it was after I made the trade with Stu. So whatever.
Doesn't Adam also have Deshaun Watson? But we don't know what's going to happen with Watson. But yeah,
it's even
still, that's good, decent value for someone who's like 4th.
Yeah, but not in that situation. His is a worse situation than Rodgers. At least Rodgers is going to play at some point this season with another team. We don't know what the fuck's going to happen with Watson. It's crazy, man. White privilege, dude. Robert Kraft gets to own a team, but Deshaun Watson can't play football, huh? Bullshit. Alex, who's your team?
Right now I was just going through some of the rosters, and you can make an argument for a couple people. I've talked about a lot about how important it is to make moves. And, that's part of the reason why I wasn't all the way down on Roden, because at least, the guy's trying, he's sending out feelers and doing stuff. One person that's notorious for not making moves and for being inactive, which, you can look at his playoff streak the last couple of years, and, it reflects. His name reflects. That's Mr. MIA CP. I think here's the thing with CP, right? He's got McCaffrey in the 1st round tender, which is obviously a gold mine. We know that's, phenomenal value. If I'm him, I'm definitely keeping McCaffrey. But you look at the rest of his roster, and it's pretty underwhelming. I mean, he's got Mike Davis, who I assume went undrafted, and that's like a 20th round tender there, which is not bad, but it's not that top tier type of keeper. He's got Juju, which again he will probably end up keeping, but right now in redrafts I've seen him go as late as like the 7th round. Not great value. He doesn't have too many top tier players, so that's something that if I'm him, with the addition right now of McCaffrey, if you just get 1 or 2, you could trade a good amount of picks to get, some 2 elite other keepers. That's a guaranteed playoff team. I mean, it does not matter. You get 2, in a redraft league, top 16 picks on your team to complement McCaffrey, and you just give up your, kind of like Paul did last year. You give up, 1 through 4, 1 through 5. He's going to be set. I'd love to see him make that move. And, maybe one day he'll even trade McCaffrey. And imagine the fireworks on that trade that this league would happen if he traded McCaffrey. I mean, he could get whoever he wanted for him. And so, which is not something I see him doing, but, there's a lot of potential on his team to, give a big shakeup. If I'm CP, the last thing I want to do is be complacent again another offseason after, seeing the last couple of years, him being in the bottom. And especially after, seeing our segments that are showing that the stats of, you need to make moves to, compete in this type of league. And so if I'm CP, that's the person that, in my opinion, needs to do something.
He's actually involved currently in the Jalen Hurts sweepstakes. Just going to leave that hint out there. Paul, who's your team that you're looking at needs to make a move?
Yeah, I think the names that popped into my head initially have already been mentioned. So I'll also throw Ruben out there. I know he's got DK. That's pretty great. I think it's like got him in like the 12th round. And I have had some conversations with him, so he's not totally inactive, but I think we got 4 or 5 weeks, so he's got to get moving before sometimes the market dries up on you. If you wait too long, the guy you wanted to go get, somebody else snags him, and then they're going to upsell him to you. And if you really want to go get them, then you got to pay more than they're probably worth, or you got to move on to somebody else. You might not get the guy you really wanted. So I think it's now or never.
Cobb, you have more of your ear on the ground in Ruben's territory. What, as far as his keepers, where is he leaning as of right now?
Yeah, I had a conversation with him, and things are still up in the air. I think he said Cam Akers and DK Metcalf are pretty much locks for him. But I'm hearing a surprising candidate for the third keeper, being Laviska Shenault in the 20th.
Interesting.
We heard Ruben last year, or we saw Ruben last year. He made a move for Darius Slayton. He's a big Darius Slayton guy. He has him in the 5th. He could have had him later. So I did not draft him in the 5th. Still decent value. But other than that, I mean, Laviska Shenault was just a surprising candidate. When he also had Kareem Hunt in 10th. And I thought he might have stuck with him too.
Robert Woods too, doesn't he?
He has Robert Woods as well in the 2nd. That could be a decent one, but yeah, I thought that was one of the more surprising candidates for his third keeper. And like Paul said, I think he could make a move and get a different third one that you'd be more comfortable with, especially since Laviska Shenault probably a later half of the draft kind of pick. But you got him now. You never know.
Yeah, very interested to see what Ruben does. As we end the show here, I'm going to throw it out there right now. Ruben Goal, you are invited to the Cobb and Dash Show episode 3 next week. You can wear your wife beater. You can do it from your bed, like he did last year so many times. So yeah, I really am curious. He's one of the guys that, I didn't mention him. I used Barry as my guy, but haven't really heard much from Ruben. Like, not even like, he did the postings of our like kind of the PDFs of all the stuff which is amazing. I love that. I also want to get into his ear about that stuff. I think that's great stuff. All the data he posted really showed. It really, it showed a lot of people who aren't making moves. And Paul, before you came on, I did want to give you a shout out. You've only been in the league for 4 years, and in the 4 years, every year you've been amongst the top in moves made. Sometimes it bothers me because I get online the next morning and I see a bunch of guys you picked up it's like you're there the wee hours of the morning, man, right on Wednesday after the whole the fob stuff is in, and you're right there picking up the guys people are dropping. I love it. I hate it, but I'm also envious of it because I wish I could do that sometimes, just to see some of the guys that go. But yeah, in the 4 years that you've been in the league, you're amongst the tops in the moves made, which just says a lot about dedication and just, that's how you win in this league. You win off the moves made. Cobb 2 years ago, a lot of the guys he ended up trading from that team 2 years ago got him the early picks that he had last year. So it just pays off. And so, yeah, I want to give you a kudos, my man.
Thank you, Dash. It helps to have a GM that wakes you up at the crack of the dawn every morning. I don't know if you can see her with the background stuff.
There she is.
I'm gonna focus, but
The GM.
5:30 every morning. It's paw to the face. Let's go. Make some moves. Get on the waiver wire, dude.
I love it. All right, guys. Well, that does it for episode 2. We'll see you guys next week, and hopefully we get Ruben on. And hopefully our on-the-field correspondent, Marcus Berry, meets us out in the streets of Delaware for a sweet and sour from the field segment. So, guys, we'll see you next week.